Welcome into the Seattle Seahawks Dynasty review, looking at what has changed with the Seahawks since 2023 and looking beyond. The Seahawks finished 9-8 this year. They let go of Pete Carroll, which was a little bit of a surprise. No one saw that coming, including Pete Carroll. Brian, Seahawks, how you feeling about this team? They just kind of stuck in like that no man's land of like not good, not great, not bad, just kind of good, like average to good.
Yeah, pretty much. It's so hard to know. Like, it'll be interesting to see what they do with as far as the coach. Like, they're one of the two teams left without a coach, right? It's them in Washington. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of hard to say like where they're going to be. We know the receivers are really good, and they have like a good 1-2 punch, or however you want to describe their running back room. So yeah, definitely like some good relevant fantasy pieces. Not the most exciting guys to talk about sometimes, but I think there's a lot of like value to be had in this team.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like we said, they finished 9-8, missed the playoffs. Don't have a head coach, like you mentioned, them and the Commanders. Seems like they're waiting things out potentially for. It seems like most people think Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, is going to go to Washington, and potentially, is it Mike McDonald for the Ravens, their defensive coordinator? I think maybe he's going to Seattle. I think I heard they haven't even interviewed anyone, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. And yeah, their cap space, I found it kind of funny because usually you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. They're minus $4,000. So it was just kind of funny to see that on like the cap space number.
Yeah,
like
someone has to take a slight pay cut.
yeah. Because like, yeah, literally everyone's in the millions. And it's just like minus 4,000 Seahawks. That is 24th best or worst, however you want to look at it, 24th out of 32 teams, so not great. They have, I think, just all their. Oh no, they have a first round pick and then 2/3, no second round pick. They're picking 16th overall. Free agents, Drew Lock's a free agent. DJ Dallas doesn't really matter. No wide receivers, and then Noah Fant at tight end is a free agent. So we'll start with Geno Smith. At the quarterback position, he bounced back a couple years ago in 2022, had a season no one expected. Came back to earth a little bit in this last season. He missed a couple games, but he threw for 600 less yards, so maybe closer to about 300 on average. He threw for 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He wasn't terrible when he played. But he wasn't amazing, which a lot of quarterbacks I feel like were like that. Are we just kind of playing the year-to-year game with Geno at this point? Like, you're fine with him as your QB2 in 2024, but you want to also look for like a safer long-term option as we move along throughout the season and stuff. Is that kind of how you approach Geno?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of almost like a bridge quarterback for your dynasty league, like it's kind of like, yeah, he's going to play this year. You said like his contract's solid enough, right? Like to where they're not moving on from him most likely. So, yeah, he's going to play this next year. And if that's all you need, it's like, you definitely want to like reinforce that, that quarterback room, but hopefully, yeah, like you can do that with a rookie this year or something like that.
So I did actually just look, and I didn't realize this. They do have a potential out for Geno this year. So that is something to consider. Now, are they going to do that? I don't know. Like, you got to find someone to replace him, right? So I remember it being essentially a 2-year like a 1-year contract. Yeah, so I mean, they could get out of it if they wanted to. It'd have a significant dead cap, where I don't think they will, but I don't really see why they would, to be honest. Like they can easily get out of his contract in 2025 as well. So, I assume that he'll be on the Seahawks. So that's kind of how I approach him. Is just like, all right, if I go into 2024 and he's my QB2, that's fine. Hopefully you have a solid QB3, and then hopefully you can pick up between now and the start of 2025. You can pick up maybe a more secure QB2 option. I don't know if there's much else to say about him. He's just kind of one of those quarterbacks. Anything else there? Like, would you try and get out of him if you could? Like, even if you're not super secure at quarterback?
I don't know. Like, I don't think so because of like what you can get for him according to Keep Trade Cut. It's like, I mean, if you could get basically, I'd say like any second round pick, like, and if you're going to like into rebuild mode, like I think that's totally fine. Like that's kind of where I was at with a lot of starters last year, like before the season started, as far as like Stafford and Goff and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, these guys are still super relevant, but if you're in full rebuild mode, you might as well just get a second round pick for him if you can and just move on. But yeah, I'm totally fine with him as my QB2.
Drew Lock is someone I think I had him on my buy low video that I made recently of like just quarterbacks that I can literally like are being valued as like a 4th round pick that like I don't mind throwing a 4th round pick at. Essentially, like, is it crazy to think like Drew Lock could go and compete somewhere for a starting job and potentially win it? Like he was kind of the favorite in 2022 to get the starting job, when it was him and Geno, and then he got COVID and missed like the 2 preseason games. And then that kind of led to Geno, and he just never looked back. So Drew Lock, former 1st round pick, has some arm talent. Does he take the career path of a Geno where he kind of failed in his first, stint with the Broncos? So, I'm not saying he's an amazing player or anything, but like, could he be my QB3 if he gets a starting job? Like, yeah, that's fine. So I'm totally fine throwing a 4th round pick at Drew Lock and holding on to him for now. I don't know if you feel the same there.
Gross. I'd rather have the 4th round pick, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know. Like, again, and the whole point is all you need to return value is Drew Lock is signed by this team and he's going to compete for the starting job in 2024. And you can sell him, right? And you just whatever team, like we went through it, and there's a lot of teams that like kind of need a quarterback. So that's all you need. And then if that happens, it's like, all right, now I'm going to sell him for a 3rd round pick. I'm going to, I just capitalized on it or whatever. I'm not saying, again, like you need to even hold on to him necessarily, but I'm totally fine with throwing it. Like you would have said the same thing about Geno Smith, right? Like gross throwing a 4th round pick at him. I kind of agree. It is gross, but just look at the guys around him, like Sam Darnold's one of them, that I'm totally fine bringing in. But, you just look at like the other guys around him. Are they really going to win like the job? Like, is Tyler Huntley going to be the guy somewhere? Probably not. I don't know. Like Josh Dobbs, we'll see. Tommy DeVito. I'm surprised Josh Dobbs is that low, actually. QB 48. But anyways, we don't need to spend much time on Drew Lock. Running backs, Kenneth Walker. Another interesting one. People kind of freaked out about it when they drafted Charbonnet. Walker was still fine. He was RB19 in half PPR, missed 2 games, so he averaged 12.3 points per game. So I think that would put him as like a top 15 running back. Thoughts on actually closer to a top 12 guy because James Cook was 12.4. and played every game. But thoughts on Kenneth Walker? Like, still one of the better running back assets to have in Dynasty at this point.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it gets a little muddy once you get to Ken Walker. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up my rankings here. I think there's a few guys behind him that I'd rather have. Like I would rather have James Cook, Rashad White, Saquon, and yeah, Pacheco too. Honestly, I think I'd rather have all of those guys than over Ken Walker. Yeah, like I mean, it wasn't necessarily the case. Like like people were, like you said, like freaked out when they drafted Charbonnet, and yeah, like I mean, it definitely didn't really affect him too much. Like he has like almost the same stat line this year as he did last year, like 15 games, 100 yards difference in rushing, but it's literally like receiving yards was 100 more this year than last year, and rushing yards was 100 yards less, and 9 total touchdowns. It's like the exact same stat line, like 9 rush attempts difference, 2 receptions difference. It's just kind of like, I guess that's what he is, like he's a middle-ish like RB2 kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, like if you build in like full health, like he's a little bit better than that. But yeah, I mean, I guess, like I don't know really what to say about him.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. For all those running backs you said ahead of him, except for Pacheco, I would still take Walker over Pacheco. You just watch Walker play, and it's like, this guy's really good. Like, if they ever decide to give him a monster workload, like this guy's going to be potentially a top 5 running back, and I don't think there's ever that potential with Pacheco. I just don't think they're ever going to operate their offense that way. So for an entire season. So yeah, I just think, like, again, can he get 250 carries, 260 carries or something, like, and 40 catches or something? He's going to be an absolute monster. So I just think he's so much better than Charbonnet, like, who's the next guy on the list, RB21, we said. I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of Charbonnet coming out of college. Like, I recognized that he was probably like the RB3 or 4 in the class, but I just like, he kind of reminds me a little bit of like an AJ Dillon-ish kind of player. Like, and we know how much I love AJ Dillon, but like, you just look at some of his stat lines from his rookie year: 19 carries, 60 yards, a touchdown. Like, for fantasy was fine. He also had a catch and 39 yards in that game, but 14 for 47, 15 for 47. Like, I just think that's kind of who he is, like, he needs the huge volume, fall into the end zone a couple times. Yeah, he can definitely catch the ball. He had 6 catch game and stuff, 5 catch game, but I don't know. I just don't know what he's going to be with Walker there. Like, I just think talent-wise, he's so much better. New coaching staff coming in, same GM, but new coaching staff. So we don't even know who that is and their philosophy on running backs. So where are you at with Charbonnet as I ramble more?
Yeah, I think he's a little too high, honestly, at RB21. Like, he's being valued as basically the 204 in this league. That's as of right now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, his value didn't really change throughout the year. I don't think. It looks like a pretty flat line. So that's fine. Kind of bounced up and down a little bit. Like, I don't, again, like with what you said, I think that's totally valid. Like, I don't know if he's going to be the dude, like, outside of an injury to Walker. I mean, even when Walker missed a little bit, like, he still wasn't that great, right? Like, let's see. But he did play San Francisco and Dallas, so we'll put an asterisk next to that or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe try and play that card play that card to whoever you're trying to trade him to, and just get your second round pick back, and then get someone else.
Yeah. I just always a little nervous about any player who just gets opportunity and doesn't show something. And I guess if you do want to point to, those 10 catches or whatever he had when Walker was out or something but like you said, he had the opportunity. He had, 19 for 60, 14 for 47. Yeah, against tough defenses, but you still like to see something, I just want to see something. Like Quentin Johnston's another one of those, he got the opportunity and did nothing,
I mean, guys that are below him that I'd rather have. It's like I'd rather have Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara, maybe Mixon. I don't know about him, but Aaron Jones, even Chubb's there. And I know that's kind of you're basically getting Chubb for a second round pick, and maybe he bounces back at the end of the second half of this next year. I don't think you're going to feel very confident about him to start. Mm-hmm. But obviously he's had a long recovery time and stuff. So, yeah, I like all those guys better than Charbonnet. Kendre Miller is kind of an interesting one. Because that's we talked about him a couple of videos ago, and that's pure speculation. Do you think he's going to be the guy? But honestly, I'd even take Najee over him. Why not? He is the guy. I don't see why you wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how much Pete Carroll was in the decision-making of drafting Charbonnet. There's a good chance he was in a big part of it. And again, just go and watch the two, some Kenneth Walker carries and touches for a game and Charbonnet, and be like, holy crap, Kenneth Walker is just so much better than him. So, I just think the talent's going to win out there, to be honest. The receivers, always highly talked about. We talk about him a lot, but DK Metcalf, wide receiver 23, according to Keep Trade Cut. He's wide receiver
crime.
1. What's that?
I said that's a crime.
Who'd you move him over? The guys ahead
of him?
I don't
know. Let's see.
T. Higgins, JSN, Flowers.
So who would I move him up? Yeah, I'd put him over Higgins, over JSN, over Flowers, and Addison too.
Okay.
I'm not saying I would put him at wide receiver 13, but it's I don't know. I feel you could definitely make the case for him. I mean, the guy's been good every year of his career, even his rookie year. He wasn't lights out or something, but he was good. 900 yards and 7 touchdowns as a rookie. That's great. And it's he's where is he? You said wide receiver 23. Yeah. It's his lowest finish since his rookie year was wide receiver 18. And that's with Geno Smith. So I don't know. He gets no respect.
A slight caveat on that though is he's wide receiver 16 last year, wide receiver 18 the year before, but he also played every game. So you always gotta, you got to keep that in mind. You would assume playing every game, being the number one guy, you're closer to a top 15, top 12 guy. So you take it by averages, and he's actually, I think, wide receiver 25-ish both those years. So I think he is slightly overrated. I'm not saying his wide receiver 23 is overrated. I just think the general perspective of him is DK Metcalf, holy crap, he's just not a big target hog, and that's just the fact of the matter. Even in college, he was third on his team in targets and stuff like that, each year, and we kind of see that in the NFL. He's just not a huge target hog. If they have a high passing volume, he'll be fine. But I think I'm going to double check this, but I think JSN had more catches than him this year. No, he had 3 less. Jason had 3 less catches. So not that that's everything, but it's just kind of I think there is a bit of a ceiling. Like I think wide receiver 15 to 18 kind of is like his ceiling at this point. So I'm kind of fine with the wide receiver 23. I'm fine with moving him above those guys you said as well. I'm not going to argue that at all, but it's just he's a big fall from grace for where he was in the middle of the 2020 season, where he was as high as like wide receiver 1. So
Yeah.
And you always expect a little bit of a drop, but I just don't think he's ever going to live up to those kind of standards. Freak of an athlete, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got a nice like we've all seen like his big touchdown plays and stuff, which that's he's one of those guys that he can easily like it just takes one play to get it done. Like he's not a huge target hog, like you said, like but I mean 120 targets was his lowest since his rookie year, which was actually this past year. Like you said, that is playing every game. He missed one, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Still 7 targets for a guy like him on average. 7 or 8, which is basically like what 120 targets is 7 per game. It's kind of like I mean, again, like he only needs one of those to like have like a not necessarily a monster game, but like you can definitely earn his roster spot just in that one catch. So I like him. I know you're not saying you don't like him, but I don't know.
No, I just think he's a wide receiver 2. I think there's two people, like there's 2 camps of like people still believe he's a top 12 receiver, and then there's people or closer to a top 12 receiver, and then there's people who are just like, no, I think he's just like a solid wide receiver 2, and it's okay to like think that,
I would say closer to 18 than 23. But yeah, definitely not 12.
And the fact of the matter is like he only had 2 games of 15 or more half PPR points last year. You just expect a little bit more from potentially your wide receiver 1. If you value him as a top 15 guy, you're kind of saying he's potentially your wide receiver 1, if you don't have one of the top 12 guys or whatever. So yeah, I think he's pretty fairly graded. But if you do think that's low, definitely go out and buy him for sure.
What pick is he worth? We don't see it. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, I was just gonna. You can look that up if you want. I'm seeing. That's early, 2026 first. I mean, you can't. We already talked about how you can't predict. What's 2026, especially. Yeah, let's see what he's worth because I'm interested now. The 110 or DK Metcalf. They are favoring Metcalf. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say basically a late first, but kind of like an early part of the late.
Yep.
First.
108 is like almost directly in the middle. So
yeah.
I think I'd keep the 108. I think I would. If it was like the 110, 11, 12, I'd potentially trade it. What about Lockett? Is he done? He's pretty old.
Yeah, I know, right? He's been playing forever. He's still finished wide receiver, 33 is what I'm seeing.
Again, playing every game.
Yeah. So, yeah, and maybe he is done. It's you don't necessarily want to count on a bounce back for a 31-year-old guy, right? It's like, yeah, he was solid, like basically a low end number 1 or high end number 2 for the last, 5 years before 2023. And the bottom might've fallen out, which is like, I think he's still basically like, startable, like in the flex conversation, like he's totally fine piece to like hold on to, like you're not dropping him or anything. But yeah, I think he's on the downslope of his career. Like I wouldn't expect him. Like, could he finish higher than wide receiver 33 next year? It's like, yeah, I do think so, but not by much. Like I'd be really surprised if he made it even into like the mid 20s as a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, my biggest worry about him, it's kind of like the Kenneth Walker Charbonnet. I just think JSN's going to beat him out this year, especially with the new coaching staff coming in and stuff. Like, I think it's going to be JSN's going to firmly take over that number 2 role, and I just think he's a better player at this point. So
yeah, see what you got with the new guy. Like, get him more involved for sure. Oops, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying Lockett for the 302. So that's kind
Lockett
of
for the 302.
Yeah, that's almost
what
like
would you do?
Yeah, it just depends on where your team's at, right? Like,
what if you're just kind of like, I could compete, I might not. Like,
yeah, I don't think
just kind of
Lockett's going to be the guy to push you over.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're like really thin at wide receiver, like let's say you have like good starters, and you need like the next man up, like just in case of injury or whatever, it's like, yeah, I'd be okay with that. I mean, like you're kind of mentioning like, like about Metcalf, like he played every game. It's like Lockett's played, looks like every game of his entire career practically. Like, it's like I see
Metcalf
a lot.
And Lockett, yeah, they're kind of notorious for that. Like,
yeah,
basically playing every game.
I never realized that about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Metcalf has never missed a game. Oh no, he missed one last year.
Yeah, I do remember when that happened, and it was
so
like,
why is the? Oh yeah, I don't know why I said he played every game. I guess I missed that one.
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah, they're both like Iron Men. Yeah, I just think with the JSN, we're going to talk about him now. Like, I just think he's a superior player at this point in their careers. So I totally agree with you. Like, Lockett's not going to be the guy that pushes you over if you're in that gray area. Maybe just take the third, the 301 or 302, whatever you said, and just hope you hit on someone like a Take Dell or something. Yeah, and then JSN, his value has fallen from wide receiver 11 down to wide receiver 21. I still think he could be, outside of Puka, the best receiver in this class. And that's not even to say like he couldn't be better than Puka. It's just hard to predict he's ever going to have a season like Puka did. But I still think he could be better than Flowers, better than Dell, better than Addison. So I personally think that he flashed kind of like, not necessarily like in games, but like in plays that he made, some plays that he made that were really nice. But he never had like that, oh crap, like this is JSN's game. I think his most yards in a game was like 60, low 60s. So hopefully he takes over the number 2 role and he gets, Tyler Lockett, I think he still had, how many catches did he have? He still had a lot, 79 catches, 122 targets. So, if that drops by 30%, like, and it goes to JSN mostly, like, I think we're, ideally, and maybe a little bit more. That's what we're looking at. So, where are you at with JSN?
Yeah, he's kind of tough. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my rankings again.
It's funny because we predicted this. Like when he got drafted to Seattle, we all kind of like said this to ourselves, and then we still dropped him 10 spots.
Yeah, it's like don't hold it against him, kind of a thing. But I think it's it's recency bias, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me ask you this: I'm kind of comfortable like where he's at. I guess there are a few guys I would move him in front of.
I will say,
go ahead.
Real quick. I will say how many of the guys that he is behind now. So we're not penalizing JSN. It's just, Puka came on. Nico Collins came on. Tank Dell came on. Rashee Rice, like 4 guys there that it wasn't because of JSN necessarily. It was more because of those guys. So I just wanted to throw that out there before you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, same can kind of be said about Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. Like we kind of knew their situations going into this year were going to be better. Addison, we all kind of liked his situation, or at least when I say we all, I feel like you, me, and Dad all kind of like said something similar. It's like, who's going to be the most relevant rookie this year, kind of a thing. And obviously we were wrong because no one predicted Puka. But I feel like we all kind of said, like, I could see Addison being the most productive given like the situation he was walking into, kind of a thing. Like, we didn't know if Zay Flowers was going to be the number one in Baltimore. Like, we knew Addison was definitely going to be the number two. And obviously the Jefferson injury kind of helped that. But I think I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like, it'd be, I think it's not as much about like him playing poorly. It was more about the other guys playing well, basically. I mean, he played all 17 games also, but I don't know. I do think that they need to figure out like what they have in him, kind of a thing. Like, not that he's like going anywhere if they're like, oh, like, screw this guy, kind of a thing. But I think if you want to buy low, like, this is possibly the lowest he's going to be for a while if you believe in him, kind of a thing. So you definitely like JSN over Metcalf, dynasty wise, straight up.
It's tough. I'd say if I wasn't going to contend this year, I would just take JSN straight up.
Yeah.
If I had hopes of contending, I would go Metcalf.
Okay. And I think that's kind of an easy argument to make. Although Metcalf, for playing 5 years, like, he obviously got in when he was young because he's only 26 years old. So it's not like he's quite the old man. And I like Keep Trade Cut because they give decimals. Where is he? 26.1. So he just turned 26 and he's been playing for 5 years. And we've seen him be good for 5 years. So I agree with that. What about Debo, who's like 4 spots behind JSN? I think I don't see why I wouldn't rather have Debo. Like, I guess we don't know where he's going to be. And obviously he's getting up there a bit in age, but he's a special player.
Yeah, I'm a Debo fan. So I'd take it's tough. Again, like, if I weren't going to contend this coming year, I'd probably just take JSN. But any other situation, I'd take Debo, like the 1 or 2 more years of Debo. How can his nickname be Debo? That's his, I guess. Okay, that's not his real name. His full name is Tyshon Raekwon Samuel. But anyways, I was just like,
I thought you were saying JSN's name is Debo.
No.
Like, JSN's nickname is Debo. Like,
it's just usually when you go into like Pro Football Reference, you can't search people by their nicknames. Debo's technically his nickname, which makes sense. But anyways, I really like Debo. So any other situation where besides not contend, like if I'm not going to contend in 2024, I'll take JSN. I really do think JSN can be like special top 12 guy. Like, I think he's potentially that good. So just might take another year.
No.
And then no one else to talk about. I mean, Jake Bobo flashed a couple times, but I'm not gonna spend time talking about him really. And tight ends. What's that?
25 targets in 17 games. It's like, nah.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
I think he had like
I know what you're talking about though too. So I think I was randomly watching it. It's like, oh, Jake Bobo got a touchdown. Weird.
Tight ends. All I'll really say is, in the case for Noah Fant, who is an extremely athletic tight end, kind of an athletic freak at the tight end position, was a first-round pick. Hasn't panned out, obviously. Had a couple fine years there. Just look at what David Njoku did this year, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next year or two, not necessarily to that level, but we see a team say, hey, maybe we should give this guy 90, 100 targets, and let's see what he does with it. They finally did that with Njoku, and the dude was a monster, right? So, I'm fine with banking on athletic tight end potential and just being like, hey, year 6 breakout, here we come, so.
Wasn't his college like, Like, isn't that like where, like, it's supposed to be like the tight end university or something?
Yeah,
Am I thinking
Iowa.
about? Yeah, I see Iowa here, and I'm like, pretty sure that's what.
They
Which
have
rookie came from
Hawkinson.
there? Okay. Well, which rookie from this year? Wasn't there
Laporta.
one? Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kittle came from there, so obviously,
Kittle,
yep. Buy Noah Fant right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. No, it's just like if I'm stashing a tight end and I'm looking at guys like Noah Gray and Daniel Bellinger and Jelani Woods, I'm just going to take Noah Fant because I know he's like super athletic. So, and he could just have one of those seasons.
He's essentially free. He's probably on your waiver wire unless it's tight end premium. So, yeah, I don't think you have to trade anything for him.
No. But yeah, that's it. I don't, Colby Parkinson, Will Disley. Nah, I'm fine. So, yeah, and no offense, a free agent. So there's potential, like, what if he gets into a tight end friendly offense? But yeah, anything else on the Seahawks?
Nope, I don't think so. I wish I would have had their Super Bowl odds up right here, but that's all right.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that's all. We'll end it here so they become our second longest videos. Titans still hold that record. As always, like and subscribe, and we will be back with Jags. We'll catch you guys then.